Hello and welcome to Dommy Tries This. I hope you brought your cuppa. Today's coffee mug is brand new. I picked it up from Kroger the other day. This kind of reminds me of California. I know it's cactus, and I know most people think of palm trees when they think of California, but I lived there for 20 years, more than 20 years. And there's a lot of deserts in California, and there's a lot of cactus, and for me, this is kind of home. Today's tea is a Celestial Seasonings Bengal spice. I've never tried it before. I can tell you it smells. It smells warm and amazing. It smells the way a tea should smell like. It has a nice, strong fragrance that gets you all ready to taste your tea. Oh, I like that. It's like I want to say vanilla, but it's not quite, and you get those spices in there. That's good. That is really good. Spices that they say are in here: cinnamon, roasted chicory, roasted carob, natural spice, and vanilla. I got that vanilla. Ginger, cardamom, black pepper, cloves, and nutmeg. I definitely got the vanilla, and I think I got the cardamom and the cloves in there. Definitely. I'm one of the few people in this house that really likes cardamom. That is really good. We actually have some really nice weather today. It's actually starting to warm up a little bit. Hopefully it'll stick around, but we'll see. We'll see. It'll be fun drinking tea in the middle of summer when it's 90 degrees and I'm sweating up a storm. We'll see what happens. Anyway, back when I started looking for foundations, and actually before that, I think, I had started looking for a powder. And the reason I started looking for a powder was because I had a very old CoverGirl powder. And as far as I could tell, that very old CoverGirl powder, and I'm talking 10 years or more, as far as I could tell, that CoverGirl, that particular powder was no longer available. If it was, I couldn't find it, or I couldn't recognize it because they repackaged it. So I started looking for a powder. And I picked up a couple samples, and I picked up a few other things, and I watched a few YouTubers, and I have some powders that I've tested out. And it was actually a very quick powder hunt, thanks to some YouTubers who suggested a few powders and the samples that I picked up. So let's get started with the powder hunt that's already done. And I can tell you which of these powders I'm using and keeping and will repurchase. So the first powder is the RCMA Original No Color Powder. This was suggested by YouTube, a couple different YouTubers. I can't remember the names. It was a while back. It's a very fine powder. It's a great for setting your foundation. However, I don't use it for that. I use it for setting my color correctors and for setting the concealer on my eyes. And the reason that I don't use it for foundation is because even though it says it's a no color powder, all powder has some color. And this is while it's a very fine powder and it's a white, it is a white powder, and I don't want any white cast on my face. And so I don't use it for that. It does not emphasize my texture. When I use it to set my primer, I use two different primers. First of all, I put the Gotcha Covered Concealer from NYX down as my base. And then I powder that, and then I put over that the Kryolan eyeshadow primer. And this goes over the powder so smoothly and easily. It is just... It's just amazing. It's just very, very smooth application, and I really, really love it. So this has become my go-to powder for my eyes and sometimes for my my color correcting. I've kind of stopped doing the color correcting powdering a little bit. I know a lot of people say you need to set it and keep it for creasing, but even though this does not emphasize my texture, I have noticed that the additional layers of more powder on my face will emphasize my texture. So I just put my foundation over my color corrector without powdering the color corrector, which seems to work just fine for me. The only complaint about this is the packaging. As you can see, it doesn't have your standard sifter, and I have found a way to work around that. What it has is this, and what I do when I want to use it, because when you're trying to tap it out on something, you can end up putting too much out. So what I do is I tap it on the lid, then I tap it back down, and then between the lid and the top, I have enough for each eye, maybe even more. So this is definitely, this was like $3 or something like that. It was really, really inexpensive. I do highly recommend it, and has become my go-to under the foundation setting powder. The next two are from Bengal. We have the Luxury Colorless, and we have the Luxury Banana. So let's talk about the Colorless. One of the things about these Camera Ready, I got them from Camera Ready. They were about $3 a piece. And one thing about these little things is they don't have sifters, which I find, this one doesn't want to open anymore. We all know Dommy can't open things. There we go. But they don't have sifters. So you get your powder completely loose like that. And I don't like that in terms of the samples. I understand it, but I've seen small samples like this with sifters in them. So I know it can be done. And I know they're keeping costs down. As you can see, it's a very fine powder. Just poofed up in the air like that. It is fine and smooth, and it covers well, and it practically melts into the skin. It does show a little texture, which is one of the reasons why I ended up not going with this one and going with the RCMA instead. I do not like having texture showing up under my eye. The eye primer goes over it smoothly, just not as smoothly as it does over the RCMA. When I tap my brush into the RCMA, I get a little dusting, but it comes off fairly easily. When I tap my brush into this, it actually clings to the brush in such a way that it's almost, I want to say clumpy, but that's not quite the word. But it does really stick to the brush. And I find that I end up putting more powder on my face as a result of that. So this is an okay powder. Obviously not one I chose to use, basically because of the texture and the way it clings to the brush that can make it problematic for me. But I can see it working for other people who don't mind those things. I just preferred the RCMA more. Also, this is a touch more expensive, I believe. Next is the Bengal Banana Powder, and just like its twin sample, no sifter, but that's what it looks like. It's another fine poofy powder. I don't know if you saw that little puff. It brightens under my eyes quite beautifully. However, just like the other one, it does emphasize texture under my eyes, and no matter how I applied it. So one of the things that I've learned since I have a lot of texture under my eyes, it's getting better with the use of some of the eye creams I have, but because of it, I don't bake. Baking actually emphasizes my texture no matter what I use. So I don't bake, but whether I baked or not, this emphasized texture. So this ended up being a no precisely for that reason. I did find a powder, a banana powder, that works rather than the Bengal. Again, it was from YouTubers, and that would be the Milani Make It Last translucent powders. I have two of them. I have the banana, and then I have the regular translucent. So the banana, very fine powder again, does have a sifter. Whoop, let's not do that. It's a light color. I think the color in this one is less bright than the other one. Oh, they're about the same. They're about the same color, I think. It's hard to see it. My lights, my lights. We needed all the lights before, and now it's like the lights are kind of an interference. So they're about the same. I think, yeah, they're about the same. They're both very fine powders. However, this one does not emphasize my texture. I very gently brush it on using my Terry Meyer 07 brush. And I just kind of very gently just do a little bit like this. And I put very little on my brush when I do it. I don't mean to put my hand in front of your guys' face. That's one thing I'm still working on. Promise. Anyway, in addition to setting the concealer, because I only use this over concealer, in addition to setting the concealer and brightening, it has a kind of a faint luminosity to it. It's not shiny, but I can see kind of a, as it melts into the skin and into the concealer, there's just a very, very faint shimmer. Sheen. We'll go with sheen. Shimmer is more of a brighter version of sheen. It's more of a sheen to it that is really lovely. And like I said, and it does that without emphasizing my texture. So this has become my banana powder of choice. Highly recommend it. And like I said, I also have their translucent light to medium powder. This one, another very fine powder. Let's see if I can put this up and have you see it. Having to twist myself around. Maybe this way. It's not white. Trying to get it. My lights are just making a mess of it. It's a very, very light tan color, medium tan. It's a very fine powder. Does not have the luminosity of the banana powder, thankfully. It sets my foundation very nicely. Doesn't add texture, doesn't emphasize the texture I have. It doesn't settle in my nose. There's one that I'm going to discuss later that does a very weird thing that I've noticed that several powders have done that I don't like and settles in the pores of my nose. It doesn't do that. It's just a very fine dusting over my face. It feels nice to this. It feels like skin to the touch. So it's not heavy. It's not powdery. It's a really nice powder and I really, really like it. So this has become my foundation setting powder of choice. Really like it, really. Had to take that next. And as you sip it more, you get more of the spiciness. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful tea. Love it. All right, so the next one was sent by my friend Jennifer in the packages I opened a little while back. This is the Physicians Formula multicolored pressed powder. It has an interesting way of opening. It has this little button you have to push to get it to pop open. The powder itself has the different colors, peachy colors, which you would think would really help even out my skin tone since I have quite a few red spots. It's a nice pressed powder. When you do that, it just comes up of a kind of a golden color. It's a dustiness on the skin. It's a nice, fine pressed powder. It's something that I might use to touch up later. However, it claims to even out your skin tone, and I never noticed it doing that. It doesn't emphasize my texture and does give a matte finish, which is one of the reasons why this would be a good powder for me to use for touching up during the day. It's an okay powder. There's nothing really special about it, despite the different colors on it, despite what it says it's supposed to do. Like I said, it does mattify, so it is something that I can use, especially as we get towards summer. I have another one that I haven't really used that much at this point. But I have another one that I can also be trying out in the summer. But it would be a very good touch-up type of powder because of the mattifying effect. It doesn't seem to leave a cast on my skin despite the light golden color of the powder. But it really, it doesn't even out skin tone. I don't find anything really particularly special about it. I am going to keep it. I am going to try it in the summer and see if it helps with when my oils start to break out, because they will. But beyond that, I don't, nothing really special in my book. Doesn't do what it says it's supposed to do. So other than the mattifying. So I guess it does half of what it says it's supposed to do. The last powder is a sample I received. I think it was a Point Perk or one of those deals from when I bought $25 or more at Sephora. And that's the Bare Minerals Mineral Veil in Original. This little sample does have a sifter. As you can see, the powder itself, well, in there it's coming off more yellow, but it actually has kind of a pinkish peachy cast. It's another very fine powder. And here it's not coming off like that. In the sifter, it looks kind of pinky rather than this clear color. And you can see it kind of leaving a dusting on the skin there. This is not as fine as the Milani, and it leaves a faint, light-colored cast to my skin. It is very, very faint. It's not annoying. For all I know, that cast could be like the luminosity of the banana powder I've been using. But it is a very peachy color, a very light peachy color. And actually looking at that, I do think it just kind of leaves a bit of a sheen that the camera isn't going to catch. It's supposed to be right in here. However, one of the things that this does that really kind of annoys me is it collects in the pores on my nose. Rather than being a fine layer on top of my skin that helps set the foundation and even out the, leave a nice finish, I end up with these little powdery dots all over my nose with this. It does look okay everywhere else, but because of the whole thing with my nose, this would never be a go-to powder for me. However, one of the things that it does do that I really like is that on the rest of my face, like I said, it doesn't do that collecting thing. It actually leaves my skin feeling very soft and almost velvety, and I do like that sensation. I don't think I would repurchase this, but I am planning on hanging on to this and using this particular sample up. But because of the whole thing with my nose, when I do use it, it'll be around the rest of my face rather than on my nose, because I really don't like that effect. No one needs polka dots on their nose. Sorry. That emphasize where their pores are even. So it's a nice powder. It's not as good as the Milani for me. I will use it for the rest of my face, but not one I'd purchase again in the future. And that's it. It's short and sweet today for this particular video. I hope you have liked what you've seen. And if you have, please subscribe. Click the reminder bell down below to let you know when I upload. And I do hope we see you all again very soon. And the next time you stop by, make sure to bring your cup of tea. Bye. Damn, that's good.